You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, and streaming live on Ustream. This is AfterBuzz TV for the Sing-Off. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip about the Sing-Off. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, picking up where the show leaves off and the buzz continues, it's AfterBuzz TV for the Sing-Off.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Sing-Off Season 3 premiere. I'm Tamara Berg and I'm here with Jesse Janity. We're kind of the skeleton staff tonight because there's something big happening in Boston tomorrow.
Something big.
Something big. It's epic. It's the film that many of us have been involved in. Serial Buddies is sneak previewing at the Boston Film Festival tomorrow night, and so our producer Phil is there, and both of the Macedo sisters. Well, no, Michelle went. Maria Menounos went. Kevin went. I did not go, even though I did do the wardrobe on that film.
Say what?
I know, but I wanted to stick around.
You here tonight.
I know. We needed to hold down the fort.
Epic.
You never know what could happen with no one else here, Jesse. It could get crazy.
Right, we can't stop AfterBuzz for anything.
No way. So I'm so glad that you watched this with me.
I'm glad too. I love doing shows with you because we have such a passion for music and eclectic music. You know, I like my fun little dancing shows and all that, but like I really love when I can sit down with somebody and talk music and vocals. I grew up with that. My mother is a singer. And so I really appreciated watching this with you because it's raw music.
Yes.
And I have a little treat for you and our listeners out there. While Tammy and I were watching this show, we brought back to what we thought actually was...
I know what you're going to play.
We thought it was from season 1, but it actually wasn't even from this show.
Oh, no kidding.
It was with Nick Lachey.
Okay.
But it was right before the Sing-Off started. There was a show called... Clash of the Choirs.
Clash of the Choirs, I remember. In fact...
And this was the infamous song.
The Flight of the Bumblebees.
I mean... Like I said...
Listen to that. That's all a cappella. That's just choral music. Now, didn't Maria host this show, or host part of it? Maybe did a reunion or something. I think she might have been involved in one of the.
Actually, now that you're saying it, I think that is why my mother might have been involved with it.
Well, so there you go.
And Maria does have a choir
background.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us do.
Yes.
Do you?
Partial. My mom sang in the same choir as Maria.
Okay.
And so I was like the youngling who would go upstairs and sit in the back. It wasn't until my later years that they were like, okay, you've sat back here long enough. For God's sake,
come on in.
Yeah, they're like, just grab a book, and I would like be the quiet one, and then everyone would get quiet to hear my voice. So yes, I do have a little bit of harmonizing in the back.
Nice. I have was in a couple of church choirs. And then more recently than that, I was actually in a vocal quartet.
I was just going to say, didn't you say something about
I did, and I will bring in our recording that we did. It's a Christmas piece, so we'll do it maybe closer to Christmas. But mostly a cappella quartet. I was the alto. And we were called Eclectica, and it was fantastic. I put the group together with some of my good friends. And then we broke up because the bass and the soprano moved to Boston.
Aw.
Rats.
Well, what made you put the group together?
I was in a bigger choir, And I wanted to do some things that were more challenging, because I was really loving, we had a choir director who, of course, did, very traditional things and occasionally would kind of throw curveballs at us. And I'm not a solo singer. I don't have that kind of voice. And so I found, 3 other people who I thought were, the most talented people who would listen to me. and they're all far more talented than I am. Which is fantastic because I can just be surrounded by them. I'm singing the alto part, which is just a support part. It tends to be very difficult because we never get the melody. And we were together for 3 years, I believe. Oh, wow. And it was great fun. It was some of the best fun I'd ever had. And so anyway, that's my musical background. I also took piano for about 5 years and quit because I was terrible at it. So
it's a really big acapella is a really big challenge.
Yes. Yes.
Music is so creative, but with this, like we heard, you have to be 10 times more creative.
There's no hiding.
No.
You can't hide.
We saw everything tonight. And actually that's actually a comment that I've never seen this show. I'm going to admit it. I've seen it in passing. My mother is obsessed with any type of singing competition show. So I would always be walking by. She'd be listening to something. And if something like catches me, I'll stop and listen to it.
Right.
And it was really, like I said, it was really great watching the show with you just because to finally sit down and like get into it.
Yeah.
It gives me more of a respect and it reminds me why I love music.
Yeah.
Just to like really break everything apart and listen to the raw vocals of it.
Yes.
Where you can put your ear to the test and say, you know what? You can kind of critique it a little more.
Yes.
More so than instruments.
I totally agree. And I've been promoting this show on the Glee Project for the last few last probably 4 or 5 episodes of the Glee Project because I was hoping that some of our Glee Project fans would come over because I know there's a pretty small audience watching this show. We'll get the numbers maybe for next week, but it's been really building and it's been interesting to see the progression between season 1 and season 3. Season 1, I don't think I saw every episode because I came in a little bit late, but I do remember that one of the biggest problems with it was I think it had a much smaller budget and not every singer was mic'd.
Really?
And so when you're doing a cappella, are you kidding me? Because then, how could the TV audience have any sense of what the real performance was like?
Right.
And then because some of the groups were massive that first season too. It seemed to me like there were a couple of groups that had 30 singers in them.
Looks like we'll be getting something like that next week.
So I'm really glad to see the progression there.
Do you think Glee had anything to do with getting people into this type of?
I don't know. Possibly. But one of the things I just think is so great about this show is that that thing that you were talking about, that I don't really watch the Idol, X Factor. I do watch America's Got Talent sometimes, but I don't watch a lot of those singing shows because I like to I'm not a huge fan of the singing all around the melody, the song styling. Sometimes I just want to be able to hear the melody of a song. Right. And there's so much of that, rangy vocalization so that people can show that they have the talent and ability to do that, because I know it takes a very specific talent to be able to do that. And it's very hard, but I like this show so much more because it kind of gets back to basics. It really gets to the root of things. You can't hide. Everybody's got to be so talented, but it's so different from any of the other shows because you've got these people doing the beatboxes and people doing the, all of the vocalizations. It's really incredible. And so I've just been telling everybody I know, and I know a lot of singers who've never seen this show. Yeah. Several people who were in choirs and actually the tenor in Eclectica, I said to him, have you seen the sing-off? Hi, John, if you're watching, you should be. And he'd never seen it. And I thought,
are you crazy?
Of all the people I know, you should be watching this show. And so Nancy, Paul, and John, you all should be watching this show. And I'm going to call you tomorrow and check in and see if you did. Okay, so let's get into the actual show. So we have 16 contestants vying for a $200,000 prize plus a Sony recording contract. We've got Ben Folds as one of the judges. You don't know of Ben Folds. He's a producer, a musician, piano player. Had a band called Ben Folds 5. We'll talk about them more in the news. Pop singer. Sarah Bareilles, who has that huge hit, also piano player and singer, Love Song. I'm not gonna write you a love song. That one. And then Sean Stockman from Boyz II Men, who's just amazing. Sarah Bareilles is new to the judging team, and I think she's going to be a fantastic addition.
I really like her.
She's just cute as a flute, for one.
And she has like this pureness to her that I've never seen. I like these judges a lot because they're just, I feel like with all these competition shows, they try to like base their judges off of American Idol.
Right.
American Idol was the first.
Yep.
They did something really unique with Simon, Paula, and Randy.
And Randy, yep.
They were just really eclectic. They threw them together, and they were fun and entertaining. And I feel like all these shows try to find one of each.
Yep.
Even America's Got Talent. I love the show, but I feel like they try to do the same thing.
Yeah.
With this, I've never seen judges like this. I really, even with Dancing with the Stars, there's a mean one. You know, with this, they love. You can tell these are three people who know what they're talking about.
Yes.
Have done what these people are doing.
Yes.
And really love music so much that they're not there to say, "Oh, you're bad. You need to do this next week." They're there to say,
or to make it about them, because sometimes that's what those judges do.
And I just think that like they proved it tonight. Like, you know, if they didn't agree with something that they did, they said it in the nicest of ways.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. I you know, because that's what I want to see with these shows. These are people who, you know, work their butts off.
Pouring their hearts out, really putting it all on the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So and she is just really unique. Like she just has this innocence to her that I just loved.
And you know, I'm one of those people who makes mistakes all the time, and then has to try to make people laugh.
Okay. And that's
afterwards, and that's what she was doing, which I loved about her. I went. Yeah.
Well, now, so Ben Folds, is he normally a judge on this? And
yeah,
what about the guy from
Yes, they are both judges from the beginning, and so Sarah's new. So so there are 16 contestants. We saw the first 8 tonight, which means that next week is another 2-hour show. Yay, 2 hours of acapella singing. I'm so happy. And the opening number, you asked this, they do every week.
Before we talk about the opening number, one thing I'll say about this show, I cannot stand 2-hour reality shows.
I know. I complain about it all the time.
Dancing with the Stars. So remember we did So You Think You Can Dance?
Yes.
It's just too
So
much.
You Think You Can Stay Awake, sort of was what I was calling that show, because it went on forever and ever.
We TiVoed it and we fast forwarded.
Yeah.
But I gotta say the flow of this show, they don't stick on the pre-packages too long.
Right.
The song numbers are long enough, but short enough.
Right.
I really, so to me, the show went by really quickly in the sense of the flow of it.
Well, and they don't do a lot of that, and we're going to tell you right after the break.
Yes.
They don't stretch it out. In my experience, they just don't stretch it out. And you're right, we didn't watch commercials with TiVo, but we probably will next week because we'll be back on schedule. So, but I agree with that. It's it's a musical number, it's a commercial. It's a musical number, it's a commercial. It's not so much of this shenanigans and
like
manipulation.
You said, the judges, not about them.
Yep.
There were no going to the judges just to hear them talk about anything. Loved it.
And real quickly, I just want to say about Nick Lachey, I actually kind of feel bad for him because he's really pushes hard and kind of does the Regis thing, and they give him a lot of puns and they're mostly terrible, and I just get a little embarrassed for him because some of what they make him say, maybe I don't know, maybe he has some input, but it's a little bit embarrassing, so I do fast forward through him. So.
That and I watched The Voice and I used to say, well, I thought Carson Daly was bad. Now I could be, don't hate me, I could be holding a grudge against Nick Lachey because I love Jessica Simpson, and I know years and years after I still shouldn't be holding a grudge. But
probably not. You're right.
Another thing is, if you've been hosting this for 3 seasons, I kind of feel like you shouldn't really be depending on the montage. So that's what's making me think maybe he is coming up with those puns. Because for these types of shows, you kind of have to be off the whim.
I don't know. He's a whole lot of cheese, and I like my cheese.
Yeah,
but he's a little too much
nice
cheese.
to look at.
Yeah, he is. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the first number. Is that okay with you, Jesse?
The opening number.
Okay, the opening number, perfect by Pink, except not by Pink. It was by 8 multi-voiced vocal groups. They do one of these every week. With whoever's competing that week, they do a massive musical number. And so obviously the first week, their first and second week, they're going to be the biggest ones because you have the most people there. But all I could say at the end of it was, how much fun must that have been?
Absolutely.
I mean, wow.
Oh, I wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
And I mean, all these people coming together, that's like a really hard thing to make it sound perfect.
Right.
But the people that they showcased,
yes,
the singles, I really enjoyed them.
Yes.
And it was a fun number. Like you said, it made me like want to be on stage with them, like
totally
snapping my fingers and jamming out, and
yeah, doing our thing. Really fun, really fun number. I thought it was great. So then we can just move right into the first 4 groups. The first was the Yellowjackets, founded in 1956 from the University of Rochester, right? Yeah. And 5 of the members. Now, here's the thing. I watched the whole show beginning to end with very little fast forwarding of Nick Lachey, mostly just fast forwarding of commercials. And Jesse came in an hour after me because he was engineering a show. And so the first hour and 10 minutes or so, I just played for him the musical numbers. So I got to watch the musical numbers twice, and I kind of gave you like a really quick, synopsis of each group.
Who, what, when, where, why.
Yeah. From the package that they played before. So 5 of the guys in the Yellowjackets came from the Eastman School of Music at the University of Rochester. So music majors. And they had gone on a musical choir exchange to Kenya. And it was, very emotional for them to, it's that thing of sharing music with other people and how it can bring such a commonality to you, which was so great with the song that they chose, because it was the song from the World Cup, the Waving the Flag. My impression of it was just that it was just an unusual and really beautiful sound. I hadn't heard really a sound and a song like that in an a cappella competition. What were your thoughts?
As soon as I heard them, I said, wow, they need to be singing a gospel song, a Motown, something with a Motown vibe, or even a doo-wop sound. I liked the song. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I just think it was I'm not going to say a bad song choice.
Right.
But I wasn't crazy about the song choice.
No, you like the song, though. You just didn't like their interpretation of it. Yeah.
It kind of has more of an upbeat to it. They kind of really slowed it down, which kind of
makes it go flat a little bit.
Affected it for me. But then towards the end, they started doing like the harmonies they were doing. It almost sounded like something from The Lion King, and I was like, I wish you sang something from The Lion King.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, because it is
life.
it's that kind of tempo with that sort of African, I don't know what the cadence is called, but I'm sure there's a name for it, that sort of African music cadence in the background. And that was what Ben Folds said he liked the most of them, sort of the choral parts.
Right. No, yeah. And I mean, the song choice wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't anything. I definitely want them to stay there.
Yeah.
I can see a lot of potential out of them.
Yeah, yeah. So then we had the Fanon family. What you didn't see was they were all sitting on chairs on the deck of their house, it looked like. So they talked about that there are 9 kids and 2 parents, 11 of them. And then all in perfect unison, they named all 11 people in their family. Oh, gosh. George, Mary, it was very funny, actually.
And if you're watching us, they're actually up on the screen.
Oh, that was the piece that they just did. Yeah, that was it.
Cute little family.
Yeah, yeah. So, and they did Selena Gomez's "Who Says," my note on this was that I thought it was really beautiful, but I wanted more of the group singing. And that's one of my criticisms a lot of times with this a cappella songs, but also competition shows like this, that they tend to do a lot of one person singing and everybody else going the doo-wah, boo-wahs in the background. And I think it's more interesting when you start really mixing it up and passing off the lead and bringing some variety into the background. And so I felt like I wanted more, just more of the group input.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
I wrote better than the original song.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really pretty.
Yes.
I like the whole family vibe. I actually disagree with the judge.
Really?
Who said
I think it was Ben.
that all their voices sounded too similar.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like that.
Yeah.
Because it filled it out for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually sounded to me like there were less people singing than there actually were.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's where he was getting that from.
Yeah, possibly.
They showcased Maria was her name.
Yeah.
They showcased her very well. I just wish she wasn't the only one showcased.
Right. Which was pretty much my comment as well. Just, yeah.
And I mean, I get that this is
share the love.
Right. I get that this is, I understand why they would want to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is the first song that we're hearing from you. This needs to be the best song.
Right.
That we hear from you.
Right. Well, and they called it their signature song. So the first episode, you're singing your signature song. But it should identify. It's your introduction. You only get one time to make a first impression.
Right.
So you think it was a bit of a misstep for them in that sense?
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It had its moments where I not really looked the other way, but was kind of just going with it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I would love to hear them sing live. I think I'm sure sitting in the audience is a totally different trip
right.
to be watching, but
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's move on to Afro-Blue. I just put a big star next to them.
Loved them.
I thought they were fantastic. In the story part before them, they talked about how they're jazz singers, and they're kind of bringing their own particular style to it. And one of the guys said, I'd just really like to sing full time instead of singing part time and working in retail. And as somebody who's worked in retail, I totally feel that vibe.
Did they say how they were put together?
They go to college together.
That's what it was. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a college group. And I went to a bit of a commuter school for college, San Francisco State. Go Gators. And I'd never heard of an a cappella group on campus. Maybe it's just sort of the, more Ivy League schools, because a lot of them come from, USC, UCLA around here.
Mm-hmm.
But I sure wish there'd been an a cappella group on campus when I was in school.
You were meant to put it together.
I would have been there. Okay, so then their piece was Put Your Records On. And I thought their arrangement was really gorgeous. Didn't you?
Absolutely. I wrote very smooth and reminiscent of old school Lauryn Hill. If you saw Sister Act 2, very reminiscent of that. I loved the lead singer, her vocal. I wrote she could sing to me all night. It was just the perfect pitch, the perfect tone. She wasn't too,
right?
It was just perfect.
Right.
And they harmonized so well with her. And the beatboxer, oh my gosh, he was so fluent. And I thought out of the people who we had seen, he was the smoothest so far.
Yeah.
Great arrangement.
I just thought it was gorgeous. And, when I think Ben Folds gives some of the most insightful comments on this show. And so at one point I wrote on my thing that their modulations and when they broke it down in the second half of the song, I was so impressed by that. And so Ben Folds said, he goes, you make jazz sound accessible, or you make it accessible to people. And that's one of the things that I think is a big challenge to jazz, is because it is inaccessible to so many people, especially people who don't play it, haven't studied it.
Right.
You know, it seems like a whole lot of, you know, sort of misplaced and very introverted kind of inside displays of music, and this was a really wonderful way to bring it, and like he said, make it accessible to people. And I think that was a very insightful comment, like he usually is. What else? Okay, yeah, Sean, class, style, slick, smooth, fun, effortless, like butter on hot grits.
Literally.
Totally.
It was so smooth.
Totally.
Yeah.
When I was with Eclectica, we did a couple of arrangements that were similar to that, and I don't know. Forgive me, all you musicians out there. I don't know the seconds and fifths and that sort of thing. I know a third's real easy. I know that because I'm an alto. I'm singing a third all the time. But they had those really close harmonies that are so hard to get right. They're so hard, especially when you're singing by yourself practicing and you don't have anybody else around you to help you figure out where they are, so you know where you're supposed to be. And they just did those so beautifully.
And they were one of the bigger groups, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
No,
like butter on hot
from
grits.
the name of it and just seeing how they approached the stage, I was like, okay, they're gonna give us something good. They just looked very well put together. Even when you saw the beatboxer, he was so into it, and it was just like I felt like I was at an urban cafe, and like just really getting like an amazing perform. I felt like I was there when they did it. I was really drawn to it, and that's when we were talking about the Fanon family at the end, when I couldn't say what I wanted to say, I just kind of just flattened out. This is what I'm comparing it to. Yeah. With the Fanon family, I wasn't drawn into it. I was not there with them.
Right.
I was sitting on my couch watching the TV.
Yeah, I get that.
Afro-Blue
pulled you in.
Totally there. I felt like I was in blue lighting. I felt like I was sitting right in front of her, and the guy was beatboxing to the left of my ear. Yeah. Like,
they were also great looking too. I mean, like I loved their costumes. And let's just talk for a second about the wardrobe. The wardrobe people, the wardrobe team on this show, oh my God, they always do such a good job. I'm so impressed with them. And Afro-Blue was one of the ones that I thought was so beautiful, because it was basically a palette of kind of aqua and turquoise and like a taupe, beige taupe color. And there were so many beautiful outfits on all these beautiful people, and gorgeous accessories. And I would not want to be on that wardrobe team, or maybe I would, but it's a lot of work, because they've got 15 people in a group. They have all got to be within this color palette. You've got 15 different sizes, and they just looked really beautiful.
Absolutely, they were one of my best dressed.
Yes, for sure. Except for when the Yellowjackets. That's your other best dressed, I'm sure.
No, not at all, actually. Because it's funny that you mention it, because when I was watching the Yellowjackets, what really bothered me is that
they're all identical.
3 or 4 of them had the skinny ties, and a couple of them had thicker ties.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and I was just sitting there like, that one little thing really kind of irks me, because
when they're all uniform in every other way.
Yeah, and it's like you all should have had skinny ties.
Yeah, it's like I always say, it's got to be all the same or all different.
Exactly. And so that's one thing I didn't notice about the Yellowjackets. And then even with the Fanon family, that purples and the browns, it was too flat.
Well, it was really flat, and it might have been because they didn't want to be sparkles, sparkle gems. But I thought the color palette was pretty. I just didn't think it translated well. Yeah. It was kind of like denim jackets, and it looked a little extra washed or something. So then let's move on to Delilah, which is like the all-star group or the super group. 6 of those girls were on season 1 or season 2.
I just give the introduction, because I have are you kidding me? I didn't want to like them because they were all from different groups.
Too.
I was like, well, that's not fit.
They're a bunch of ringers. That's not right. Well, and I know
Jesus.
I didn't want to like them either, but it's not that I didn't want to like them. No. I just felt like they had sort of an unfair advantage.
Exactly.
But the thing that I wrote down was they absolutely had a star quality. I mean, the way they were moving across the stage, they clearly all have brilliant stage presence. And I was really drawn to them. I felt that their tones were really warm and rich, and the lead girl, she sounded to me like a beautiful bird.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote literally, and they have the least notes for me because I was just like,
you were just mesmerized.
Hot,
yes,
really smooth.
Yes,
for females, their beat vocals outdid Afro-Blue.
Yeah.
And like I was amazed by Afro-Blue.
Yeah.
But like these girls, that is incredible.
Yeah, they
these
were
girls
amazing.
blew me away.
Right.
Very strong performance. The lead vocal, she pulled at towards the end a Christina Aguilera like riff.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to hear through a couple of these. Like I wanted to hear I guess you said the modulation. I wanted to hear someone like, I don't want it to be flat bass the entire way.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl gave it to me. And one other thing about this group is they reminded me of like an iconic Pussycat Dolls group.
Right. Me too.
The difference is, and this is kind of sad for the Pussycat Dolls.
Right.
I couldn't tell you who the other 4 or 5 girls in the back were for the Pussycat Dolls.
Right.
These girls, even though they were singing in unison, each had their own individual style. The way each one of them turned their head and gave the attitude, each girl was different, unique. It was really an awesome performance. I was so happy.
I agree. They really, their presence was so palpable. I mean, they were really fantastic. And I think it was Ben was talking about he said they were rubbing seconds and it was very smooth in the chorus. And that's that seconds and thirds and fifths and sevenths things that and they're talking about, for those of you who are not super knowledgeable about music, as I am not as well. It's the what's the word? It's the relationship of the notes to each other's and to each other in a chord pattern. So it's seconds and sevenths and thirds and that kind of thing. And so seconds are really hard, is the bottom line of that. They're not a natural. They're so close together that it's not a natural chord progression that we're used to hearing, and so it's hard to sing them without an instrument behind you.
Well,
so
go girls.
That's what that is. So then we had our first elimination, and when I was watching this, because I was watching it in real time, I was like, oh my God, I've only been here an hour and they're already eliminating somebody. I've only seen 4 acts. What am I going to do? It was harsh. I thought that was really harsh in the first hour.
Could you guess?
I did, and since I watched it 2 times, I think I was wrong, because what I wrote was the Yellowjackets.
Okay.
And
what were your thoughts for that?
Well, and the ones who were left were the Yellowjackets and the Fanon family, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just, I was kind of sad about it, but I would have been sad about anybody leaving at this point because, like I said, I'm just gotten to know them and already somebody's going home, and it makes me sad that they've gotten to this point and, get to sing once and then you're out. But then as I watched it the second time with you, I completely agreed with it because they were just, they didn't jump out. They were pretty, and especially if we listen to the criticisms of the things that we couldn't really hear, was that they had harmony problems and that sort of thing, and that apparently Maria one of them had some pitch issues and that sort of thing. Well, then I totally agree with it. And as I watched it the second time, I went, yeah, no, the Yellowjackets need to stay.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing with the Yellowjackets and the Fanon family, it was just like, personally, I could kind of see the Yellowjackets giving them another chance and them doing something different.
Right.
When the Fanon family sang their swan song, which was Annie Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Why didn't you perform that?
I know.
That song.
Or something like it.
Yeah,
because
it was stronger.
It was.
You used 2 of your vocalists, and the thing with when they did the Selena Gomez song, when the 2 lead girls sang, they sang together.
Right.
Which didn't really showcase each one of them, whereas Annie, they traded off.
Yes.
It just was more powerful of a performance.
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. Well, they'll get a lot of opportunities to sing at churches.
Absolutely. And Maria is so young that she's going to build her vocals.
For sure. But they're from, where are they from? Wisconsin. I think.
Yeah.
God bless them. That's all I can say.
Literally.
They live in Wisconsin.
And, you know, part of me watching them, too, was I felt like they were a family, and all of them probably have singing background.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this was kind of, in their heads, a way to launch Maria.
Oh, okay.
Just a thought. It could
Okay.
be totally wrong.
Yeah.
Just what I...
Yeah, maybe. Well, if
came
that's
up
the
with
case,
from
I mean, she's got lots of opportunities. She's 14 years old, for goodness sake. She's
Absolutely.
got her whole life ahead of her. So into hour 2, we meet Urban Method, who are from Denver, right? Urban Method, Denver, Colorado. So Tony put the group together. He, I think, was the guy who owns the music studio, and so he
Yes.
put the group together because he just keeps meeting amazing singers and wanted to create an a cappella group that was edgy, kind of hip hop, and they have a rapper, and we've never seen a rapper on the sing-off before, and I thought it was a fantastic addition.
Absolutely.
You're a big fan of rap, right?
Yes. Very much.
Me, not so much. But so what? Give me your thoughts on him and his performance. What did you think?
I really liked him.
Mhm.
I thought he was probably the best part of it. He had a great.
Okay.
He had a Troy, their bass. Who was their bass? Like I forget. One of the judges said my ass was shaking.
Yeah.
Literally, the deep boom that guy could do is incredible.
I mean, yeah.
Incredible.
That's about how low I could go.
But rapper's name was Mike, and
Right.
the thing about rapping, especially live, my biggest issue with it is you hear really good rappers on the radio or in a video,
Yeah.
and then when you see them perform, they're rapping over their track.
Yes.
And it's just annoying, and it's really hard
It's
for
a little bit of a cheat.
Yeah, and it's really hard for a rapper to. There aren't a lot of rappers who are good who can perform. This guy
Live.
gave a great performance.
Right.
And actually, I'm going to compare him to rapper, singer B.O.B. He's kind of new. He had his kind of swag, his flow. I really liked it. It was a lot of energy. And at first, he didn't keep it consistent, but at first he was rapping exactly like Eminem.
Well, and they mentioned Eminem.
Yeah, they mentioned because they were saying, I hope Eminem's watching because he did a great cover of his song.
Right.
But at first he had the high pitch, the way he was spitting. It was just really reminiscent of Eminem, and I was really proud of that for him to go. He lost it a little bit, but which is good because it gave him his own voice.
Right.
So I give him an A as far as the
let me ask you
performance
this. First of all, I thought it was interesting that he rapped in the opening number and he rapped in this, so it makes me wonder if he can't sing.
Yeah, as well.
So we'll see.
Well,
but I have to say I liked the tonal quality of his voice. I thought it was really beautiful and really kind of lyrical. So maybe he can sing, but they just haven't shown it.
I think he
yet.
might be able to because at the end when the female vocalist showcased
Yeah.
herself,
Yeah.
he was doing the harmonize. You could see he was doing
no
the
kidding.
harmonizing.
Oh,
He
okay, I
was
missed
giving a
that.
little beatbox action too. So I don't know as far as what he's capable of doing, but he might be able to harmonize. Very well.
But I think, like I said, I think the tone of his voice was really appealing, and so that was good. But one of the things that I was thinking about in the first half of his rap, I felt like he was overpowering. Overpowering the whole rest of the group, and there wasn't as much of a blend. And it might have just been because we were watching it, through our televisions and not live. But it was that criticism that I often have, that there's one singer and a bunch of people going ooh ah in the background, and I felt a little bit of that, but it got more balanced as we went along.
I agree. I agree, but I don't know why I agree because I don't know if it was this that was the problem. But the lead girl, to me, she was good. She was good. But I wanted her to... She showed us her vocals at the end of the performance.
Okay.
She needed to start the second verse in.
Okay.
I needed a little... What I wanted was, while the backgrounds are doing their little hoo-has, the rapper's rapping, he's the performer.
Yeah.
But I wanted to hear the melody of the female. I wanted her to be throwing in some... vocals and just she didn't do it until the end, and to me that's where I was kind of feeling like he was overpowering it because he was interesting.
Right.
And the rest was kind of like I got lost. It dulled down in the middle for me a little bit, just a little bit. I thought they were great, but just a little bit.
Well, then let's move on to the Cats' Pajamas. They sang Some Kind of Wonderful, which is actually one of my favorite movies. Some Kind of Wonderful, which you probably don't know. It's an old movie with Eric Stoltz, the dreamy Eric Stoltz, and a great little song.
You were singing along with
I was singing along. Can I get a witness? So they're professional singers. They do 200 shows.
Hip of the hip, cool of the cool. That's what the Cats'
Right,
Pajamas.
exactly. They were the Cats' Pajamas. So it was a very traditional kind of, we've seen it a lot, sort of interpretation. But then they broke out in the second half of it, and it was much better, I thought. And they just got, kind of slammed for being too perfect. Their technique was brilliant. They were super polished. They were pitch perfect. That's what all the judges said. And they just kept saying, we'd like to see you take some risks. We'd like to see some versatility from you. And if you get to come back, that's what we're looking for. And you and I both looked at each other and went, oh, look, Cats' Pajamas are going home.
Yeah. I mean, they were really good. They were very in sync with each other. I loved the ending of the song.
Yeah.
I thought that was the best part of it.
Me too. Me too.
Great crooners. Mm-hmm. They had a very Motown boy band feel.
Yeah.
But watching the prepackage, to me, the light-skinned, shorter one, had the best voice out of all of them.
Okay.
Maybe technically not, but for showcasing your group, he had a different type of voice. And I wish they had used him rather than just using the one guy.
Well, and again, when they did their swan song, isn't that what they did? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they just proved me right at the end.
Right. Exactly. So then moving on to Kinfolk 9 with Moi, or Moi in French, living in a garage with his 2 kids and his wife. Oh, jeez. Break my heart in the first episode.
Right.
So they sang Secrets, and I thought it was good, but to be honest, I wrote that it was slightly unremarkable.
Yeah. He blew me away. He saved them.
Really?
To be honest.
Yeah.
I think he just has a really different voice. I mean, we're hearing so much of this. When you hear acapellas, it's so much almost of the same thing. Mm-hmm. That he added something different. I wrote they were very eclectic, and I think that's what got them through this round. Yeah, is banking on the fact that there were a lot of. I think they even said there were a lot of pitchy
problems.
errors.
Yeah,
but those things can work out. What did I write? The background was not strong with the beats, as I would like. But but when they harmonized and all sang together, that's where I was like, none of the other groups did that.
You write good notes.
Thank you.
I write really fast. I write one-word notes, and you write whole sentences. I'm very impressed.
It's just what literally like the thoughts that go through my head, and as far as with that's what I really wanted from them. From watching this show, I like you said actually before, you wanted to hear more singing together,
right?
And they were one of the only groups that did that,
right?
And what was it? I loved the breakdown during that song.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this was more of just showcasing Moi, or however you say his name. Good, really good. And I can see a future for them. Getting better.
Yeah. So the next we had Vocal Point from BYU, who bill themselves as the most fun 9 clean-cut Mormon guys can have.
Yeah. They're funny little quirky guys.
Yeah. So, and they didn't have Ben, their Aussie, who is the baritone, and because he had to go home and be with his dad, who's very sick with leukemia, which was very sad. Jump, jive, and wail. I couldn't read mine. I'm like, what does that say? Jump to pails. What? Jump, jive, and wail. Fun song. Very energetic. And when they started singing, I turned to you and I said, they're in the same category as the Cats' Pajamas.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Cats' Pajamas was very on point. These guys were on point. The difference, I felt like I was watching Glee. I felt
with these guys.
A vocal point. The lead vocalist was way stronger than the guy who was singing the Cat's Pajamas.
Yeah.
Which is why I think they should have used the other guy for Cat's Pajamas.
Right.
Awesome vocals, really strong breakdown, and a very, very strong bass. I wish I could remember his name to give him credit for that. And on top of it, they danced their ass off.
I know. I'm so impressed with the choreography in these
Yeah, I mean,
numbers.
Cat's Pajamas, they moved around a little bit, but this was like so in sync. These guys were just on point. And then the great high note at the end.
Yeah.
It was just such a good presence on stage.
Well, really fantastic. And I wrote down nice modulations, which is very hard in a cappella. And then my man Ben Folds. I think I have a little bit of crush on Ben Folds, really. Let's just be honest. He goes, when they came, he said all of his things. He said it was a great groove. It was really wonderful. And then he goes, now I want to teach the American kids about what a modulation is. And I was like, I'm so awesome when I say the same notes as Ben Folds, because I think he's so clever, he's really educated. He gives great notes. And then 2 of the things that he said were things that I had said. And I was like, I rock. Not as much as he does, but it made me happy.
And, the other thing with watching these guys, by far, they were the most put together. Mm-hmm. I would have thought they were the ones who did 200 shows a year.
Right. No kidding.
Not to take anything away from Cat's Pajamas. You guys were really good.
They were excellent.
But these guys were just too on point. It was like, okay, are you guys cheating somehow? Have you done this? Did you win a competition?
They're Mormon.
Yeah.
That's all they have to do.
Right. Wait, and you're right, because did you see when they took the girls on a date?
Group dates. Mm-hmm.
And they were like singing to the girls, which is really cool, really clever. But
my first boyfriend was Mormon and left me for BYU. He left me for BYU.
And now he's
Hi, Russ. We talk now. Actually, just saw him a couple months ago when I was up in Oregon. I drove through his town. So, yeah, I mean, I just thought they were amazing, and it will be so interesting to see how their sound is affected if and when Ben comes back in the next show, which we hope he will, and we hope things go okay for him.
Yes.
But then we had the second elimination, and it was the Cat's Pajamas and Kinfolk 9. And one thing I wanted to say was when Cat's Pajamas came up, we had a problem with our TV, and we were only hearing the performance. We couldn't see it. So for the first 30 seconds, we just were listening. And so you were kind of working on the technical stuff, and I was just kind of sitting there, staring at a blank screen, but listening. And yeah, it was excellent is what I'm thinking. It was, it was really excellent, and it was good. But actually, Sean, I think, said, how would it translate on the radio? Mm-hmm. How are they going to be when there are no visuals of the moves that they're doing and the visual personality that they have? And we actually got to experience that because we weren't seeing them on screen, and it was kind of I don't want to say lackluster, but there was something missing.
It must be lackluster because I was just thinking the same.
Oh, you were? Okay, it was a little lackluster. We agree then. That's why we're friends.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're actually bringing this back up, because I wanted to say to you in the screening room, but the thing with me and Tammy is I just want to blabber everything out.
I do.
But then I'm sitting there holding it back, no, it'll be more unique when I bring it up in the show.
Yeah, and then you forget.
Yeah. So I'm glad you were there to bring this back up again. Yeah. But exactly what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely, music is my life. Mm-hmm. I'm a DJ. Mm-hmm. I'm very keen to putting music on and doing 100 things at once.
Yep.
While I was trying to fix the projector.
Yes.
Totally tune them out.
Well, that's not good.
Not tune them out, but I could hear them, but it wasn't. If that had happened during Vocal Point's performance.
Yeah.
My mind would have been envisioning exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
The song was just so much more alive.
Yeah.
You could hear the pep in their step.
Yeah. And it's sort of the translation of the personality. And when the two groups were up there, when the Cat's Pajamas were standing next to Kinfolk 9, you said like this. You went, the difference between this, here it is right here. 200 performances a year and living in a garage.
Right.
And
well, that was between Did you say Kinfolk?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Because I wrote it down. And so yeah, I mean, they're incredibly polished, incredibly perfect, but maybe not a lot of personality there, or at least we didn't get to see it yet.
And I think the judges were sitting there thinking, like, you guys do 200 shows a year, and you come here to this show, which is something that we don't take a lot of people, and you guys finally made it, and you're giving us the 201st performance.
Right.
It's the same thing that you guys probably are always
Right,
doing.
right. Really good point.
Versus us giving somebody who has a great voice and lives in the basement and can't perform anywhere.
Yep.
So, take the chances, guys. You have one shot. What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
And then they sang Goodbye, My Baby.
Oh, right.
And like I said, they should have had the short, light skin sing lead vocals.
The two groups that were voted off gave their best performance in their Goodbye performance.
And that Goodbye performance was awesome.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. Yeah, he was fantastic, wasn't he?
And it's funny because watching the prepackaged when he was singing to that older woman.
Yes.
In the thing, I was
in the audience.
Wow, this guy's really great.
But
and then
we didn't get
to
see him.
The other guy.
Yeah, we didn't get to see him.
Sorry.
One of the things that I wanted to mention was, I think I kind of went this, but these are the notes that I didn't know where to put while we were doing, and I thought, I need to bring these back. I often don't comment on the lead singers because I think of it like a little bit like photography. I'm a photographer, and as a hobby, and so I have there's black and white and there's color, right? And I find black and white photography to be so much more difficult than color.
Totally.
And I've always thought this ever since I got my first camera in high school. Because you can be dazzled by colors, and it's sort of like juggling. You got so many things going on in this picture, and if you don't like that, well, there's something else over here, and there's something else over here. But black and white, you really have to pay attention to your composition, the parameters that you're given, and you are only dealing with shading as opposed to colors. And I kind of think of that similarly with lead singing versus a cappella singing. And I as I said, I often don't comment on the lead because it's something everybody's used to doing. I mean, we all sing in the shower, we have all sung our little hearts out to the sing in the car, to the radio, or whatever. But trying to do the kinds of things that they do, where you're blending in with a group. I have a really bright voice that just like pierces through things when I'm singing. And that's something that you have to be really careful with when you're singing in, especially in a small group like I was with Eclectica. That they'd always be, okay, Tam, back off the mic a little bit. And John would too, the tenor. He and I had similar problems with that. And it's just, there's so many more elements that you have to pay such careful attention to in a cappella, because everything is amplified, because you've only got you don't have all of the other things to hide behind, all of the other elements to distract people from. So anyway, that's just sort of my commentary on lead vocals within a cappella and a cappella itself. I think we're in for some big treats.
Oh, I can't. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say? I have some news. So, so is there anything else that you wanted to say on this, and then we'll go to a commercial and come back with some news?
I'm ready to hop into telling you about next week because I'm very excited.
Okay, well, let's go to a commercial, and then we'll come back and do a little news.
Want to find out what the AfterBuzz is about?
Janice is a drama queen.
This is the divide that is going to carry the series.
Give us a call. 424-256-1729. 424-256-1729.
It's television, and they want it to be as dramatic as possible.
I mean, it's Shakespearean. You never know what goes on behind closed doors.
Find out why AfterBuzz TV is the #1 source for after-show content.
Now, in the eyes of Jimmy, Nucky is a villain.
424-256-1729. 424-256-1729.
I mean, who would you guys rather hear that from? Your husband or your best friend?
The wig
When the TV show is over, get your AfterBuzz on. AfterBuzz TV News.
I have heard that, that our intro and our, commercial hundreds and hundreds of times, but I just started watching Boardwalk Empire this week and realized that Kevin's talking about Boardwalk Empire in one of those little pieces, and I was like, oh, right, I totally get that now, because I haven't gotten it for the thousands of time over the last year and a bit that I've been doing this. I never understood. So anyway, that was a little revelation I had today. I have some news. Ben Folds has a new album coming out October 11th. He's reuniting with Ben Folds' 5 members, drummer Darren Jesse and bassist Robert Sledge, to record their first new music together in over a decade. The album, called The Best Imitation of Myself, will feature 3 new songs from Ben Folds' 5, and then the rest of them will be Ben Folds songs. So it's kind of exciting. You should listen to Brick, which was their big hit a long time ago. It's a beautiful song, and he actually... Is that the song? I think that's the song. He talks about how when he first played it for his band members, they didn't like it. And
really? It's probably #1 hit, right?
Yeah. They said, "What's that song? Is that going to be on the album?" And he says, you don't like it?" And they go, "Well, was it the record label's idea?"
Oh.
And he says, I've always felt that was our moment, that Brick was a very dignified thing to have as our biggest hit. So you should listen to that song. I've always really loved it. He's got, it's an unusual voice. It's not, it's not like a big solo voice like we're so used to listening to. But I love his voice, and I think it's really wonderful. The other thing I wanted to bring up was that Ben Folds. Okay, I do have a little crush on him.
I was just gonna say, were you on his website or something?
Well, he's the one I'm most familiar with, really, is all it comes down to. But he said that the sing-off is very different from the other singing shows, and he was talking about the reason why he thinks it will be successful. It kind of bothered me a little bit that Nick Lachey kept talking about, this is totally different. You've never seen anything like this. I felt like they were pushing the differentness of this show a little bit too hard. I mean, it is different, but just let it be its awesomeness. Anyway, Ben Folds says about the sing-off, frankly, I don't see this as having to do with other singing shows. Even though the form is the same, I almost feel the sing-off has more in common with Star Trek, because it's a cappella, it's about people working together, it's not about bickering, it's people working successfully in harmony, and that's a totally different vibe. So sing-off is Star Trek.
And we mentioned it earlier, when we first started. Yeah. It's not, even though it's a competition, you don't feel it. Even when the elimination comes around, you're like, oh yeah.
Well, because it really is kind of more a celebration of music.
Right.
Because there are so many people involved, because there's so many, musicians involved in it. It really takes a lot to do a group like this and to create all the things that they create. So that's it for my news for tonight. I'll see if I can come up with some more next week.
Alrighty, we'll see if you guys want to hear some more of Ben Folds, what he's up to next week.
Exactly, I'll let you know all about my boyfriend Ben Folds.
AfterBuzz TV Sing-Off Edition.
Exactly. So yeah.
And now your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay, the winners from last year's or last season was a group called Committed, and they made me cry every time they sing.
Really?
They're just completely amazing. The second runners up, or whatever you want to call them, the runners up were Street Corner Symphony, which also blew me away. They were the last 2 standing. I would have been happy if either one won. They were just brilliant. But I got a little bit of that with the Delilahs. What were they called again? Yeah, yep. Delilahs. But I didn't cry. I'm a big crier. I'll cry at anything. But especially when my heart is touched by something, and music does it a lot to me. So I didn't really get like big goosebumps, lots of crying, that kind of thing. So one of my predictions is that next week they are going to bring it and bring it hard.
And from what we saw, I mean, next week, I'm really excited for next week. I mean, this week, I'm kind of in the boat with you. I know that everyone was really, really good,
Yes.
but it was almost the same level of competition. Next week looked like more dancing, more stronger vocals. So yeah, I'm really excited for next week. And I like the really big groups because it fills the song out more. And it looked like there were about 20 people on stage for one of them. So that's kind of exciting.
And I'm really glad that they got a bigger budget and can mic everybody so that we can get the benefit of those big groups. So you're, if you were a producer of the show, wouldn't you hold off at least some of your best?
Well, and I think they even did that tonight. You know, we watched the first 4.
Yep.
You know, they threw in Afro-Blue and Delilah, who kept you there.
Right.
And then for the second one, you know, the groups got more entertaining.
They were a little bit of a step up.
Yeah, and then you see for next week, it's like, oh, okay, well, I definitely want to see next week, because even at the end of all this, I was like, if I was to pick of all 8 of you guys, I could definitely pick a winner.
Yeah.
But to be giving such a great package away,
right? You
need a little more competition.
You need to be more impressed.
You need to be pushed a little harder, and I think next week is going to push these groups harder.
It's going to come. It's going to come. I don't know how many episodes. We have to figure out how many episodes are in the season. But if it's this season is different from others because they normally started off with 10. Okay. 10 contestants, 10 teams, and this time they started off with 16. So the season will be longer. I read in interviews they talked about how this is going to be a more grueling season for the singers because it's a longer season. When you get down to fewer groups, you have to do more numbers to fill the hours that are on TV. So it's going to be really difficult.
I'm hoping it's not going to be 2 hours every week.
I might have a hard time sticking with it if that's the case.
Yeah, you know, I really love the show.
Yeah.
And I also wonder, in the coming weeks, like, you guys are now really using your vocals on a harsher level weekly.
Right.
So
are you going to be able to recover?
Comes into play with some of these people, especially with a group like what was it, Kinfolk, who they're not really used to that.
Right.
You know, and they have to kind of work on their harmonies more, so they have a lot more work to do.
Sure, they've got a lot more ground to cover.
So people missing and whatnot.
Who was your favorite group from this week? Or maybe your couple of favorite groups?
Favorite group, I would have to say.
Okay, I'll tell you mine while you're thinking. Mine is either Delilah or Afro-Blue.
Oh.
Delilah really blew me away.
Yeah, I would have to say Delilah because that was going to be that's a definite for me.
They really blew me away.
And I just have a lot of hope, I guess, for Kinfolk. That I would probably go with them.
And then Vocal Point. We love Vocal Point.
Yeah, I mean they're like a hands down.
Yeah.
But I don't want Vocal Point to win.
Okay.
I'm gonna boldly say that.
Okay.
Reason being, they're really great, but from what I saw tonight, I feel like we're going to get a lot of that.
Right.
And I feel like that when you think of a cappella, that's what you think of.
Right.
I want to go outside the box. I want something different.
I hear that.
I would love if Urban Method could, keep with that. I would love if Kinfolk, someone said, you know what, this week I'm going to try to rap. I would like to, you know what I mean, see people do some different things. That's what I'm always going for with these talent shows.
I really think, I'm sure they'll bring them on later in the season. They'll bring on the winners from last season. I don't know how long the season goes, but last season we went through Christmas. And so they did these really wonderful little pieces at the Grove, actually. Oh. They did little Christmas songs, and not little Christmas songs, but they showed portions of Christmas songs that the groups each did. And it was really beautiful, and I'm pretty sure those are available on iTunes. I know they talked about them last year. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this season, but I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really having fun. And thanks for watching with me, so I didn't have to do it all by my lonesome. And just
absolutely.
Have to talk to myself.
I enjoyed myself very much, and like I say, with everything here at AfterBuzz, I never used to watch TV. I was very specific with the shows that I watched.
Yeah.
And just doing it with you guys and seeing the passion of all the different shows, because I watch them all. Being the engineer here, I see everything that goes on here. Or I hear everybody talking about the shows. I'm glad that I was here tonight to do this with you and get to experience the show, because this isn't something that, as much as I love singing, I don't have the time to like sit down and watch one of these shows.
Right.
So I'm very thankful that I got to do that with you here tonight.
Thank you. Me
and
too.
I hope if you guys didn't get to catch the show tonight and you're just checking out our after show, make sure you actually check it out. Or some of the performances on YouTube, and then re-listen to us.
They're really good.
And agree with us.
Yes, exactly. So that's it for this week. Our gang will change next week. Right now, they're literally about to go in the air on their way to Boston, and we'll see them next week, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
Peace.
From producers Kevin Undergaro and Phil Svitek, engineer DJ Jesse Janity, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. If you have questions or comments, be sure to buzz us at info@AfterBuzzTV.com. And you can find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.